And my question is, if you look at what they require, it says an architect or structural engineer,
Yes,
if applicable, I don't know if we're applicable,
I don't know.
must be licensed in the state of Colorado.
Yep,
I'm not licensed in Colorado.
dang it.
Is this for the gazebo?
This is for
That's not a project
I don't
would
see why that's like,
engineering. Yeah. Um,
Hey, Becky.
Oh, that's me.
Like now what have I pushed?
And then
Jesse, how are you?
Hey, Becky, I'm having internet problems at this hotel that I came to stay in specifically so I would have internet. So I'm happy.
We're trying to work out some audio stuff on our end too, so no worries. We'll get through it.
Great.
And I'm gonna have to step out a little bit here. I do have a hard stop where I have to go at 5:30 today. But I can make sure that Nancy's able to lock up the building if that's okay. And if Mayor Dixon's not back yet. Okay.
Sound
Okay.
I don't have an option to join without audio. I can only join with computer audio.
So I think it's okay if you join with audio, but recording in progress. Turn your. That sounding
sounds good now.
okay, great. Perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn up the volume on this one. Jesse, would you give us a little bit of audio so we can see if the volume's good?
I certainly will. Hopefully you can hear me now.
Hey, we turn that one. Hopefully to all.
And it's all you now. You're in control.
There you go, Dawn.
So I'll bring up do you have an agenda packet you want to share, or do you just want me to bring up the agenda for this part?
Just bring up for this part, but we need to start a meeting first.
So your packet is pulled up here.
Okay. Okay.
But I don't know that it's being shared, but Jesse's able to access it online. Okay.
Yes, I just have to get there. Hi, Nancy.
Hey,
You guys.
Bill's here and Don's here. I'm not sure where Jay is.
Jay just texted me and he's gonna be a little bit late.
Okay, Jay is gonna be late. All right.
We will be all right.
Okay.
And I am,
What did I do? Oh, Paul's sharing.
so Paul is sharing now.
Right.
Jesse, I'm off screen so that the members of the committee can see the screen a little better, but I can hear everything you're saying.
Great, great. So I'm gonna call our meeting to order at 4:03 PM. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
No,
I move to approve.
second,
All in favor?
I,
Thank you. Are there any persons present not on the agenda to speak? I don't see anyone in Zoom land.
nope.
Then we'll move on to the consent agenda and I'll ask, thank you, Nancy, for doing a great job on the minutes as always. Don, did you have any additions or corrections?
No.
How about you, Phil?
No.
Okay, Phil moves to approve. I'll second. All in favor?
I,
I gotta get Phil involved here, but he didn't see anything wrong, so we. So we are to agenda number 5A item, and this is our capital improvements plan workshop by Paul Yingling. And Paul, do you want to take over from here? Or am I doing our celebrate successes and best practices?
Well, Jesse, the way I'd propose to do it is I'll pose some questions, but then obviously, given your leadership and experience, you'll probably be in the best position to kind of direct the dialogue. What I propose we do is, as the agenda suggests, celebrate the successes, what really went well for PRT in the past year, practices you want to sustain, and then we'll go into improvement areas. Capital improvements first, then strategic planning, wrap up with a prioritization exercise where we take all of the input that we gather and focus on what's truly urgent and important. So you'll probably note on the second page of that briefing packet where it says review best practices and celebrate successes. This is just an opportunity to brag. I mean, what really went well this year, whether it's trails construction, whether it's internal practices, and I will scribe so that as you're speaking, I'll be capturing this in a document. And then Jesse, when the meeting is over, I will provide both the raw notes that I capture as well as my own summary by email so that you can, when you meet with your colleagues on the other committees, you'll be able to have that input ready. So no need for you to furiously scribe. I'll take care of that.
sweet. You don't have to take notes?
No, I will be the note taker. Yeah, so yes, you get to sit back and hold forth with strongly held opinions.
Like this meeting.
So that's the word I propose we start. What really went well?
Our wayfinding signage was a big benefit to the town.
Absolutely. That was at the top of my list too. Because I think it gave us our footing into the door and really showed that we've got some strong internal practices. I think our biggest accomplishment last year, our goals were great. Wayfinding signage was definitely at the top, but I really think our best achievement last year was building an incredible team here.
Oh, that's true. Amen.
Yes.
We do work well together.
I like,
Don,
yes, I like the approach that we have developed in identifying problems in the town and then forming solutions that are agreeable to most people involved.
absolutely.
Well, our committee respects each other for their opinions and ideas, and that is huge, because then you're not afraid to present things. You're actually encouraged.
I also really like the openness of the group to take on tasks that aren't necessarily goals that we set up at the beginning of the year, but that are asked of us by town officials.
Now, see, I didn't get that last comment. I heard rough.
Something about these long nighttime meetings during dinner. I'm in a hotel which I came to get a good cell or good internet connection, and it's spotty, but I'm here with dogs in Texas, just off the fishing dock. So here we are.
All right, so yeah, I've got successes include wayfinding signage, both for the benefit to the town and the footing it gave in raising the PRT's profile, internal team building on the committee, including an openness to take on goals provided by the town leadership, respect among committee members that encourages dialogue, and identifying problems and forming solutions agreeable to most. So yeah, not a bad bit of work there.
No, I'm also going to say that we were able to at the last minute interject some things into the gazebo park phase 1 renovation that I think definitely made that project better.
And we've been pretty successful with grants.
Can you say a bit more about that, Nancy?
Well, we've we got the Bear Aware grant, and we have another grant that's been submitted, and we have like 3 other grants that we're working and looking into. So we're, trying to, we realize that the town does not have the funding for certain projects that need to be done, and we are, with the help of town staff, we're actually looking at different funding venues.
Jay just came in. Yeah, well, I apologize for being late, but this is the first time I got to talk to my son since Christmas. So
I see.
he's in the military. He's posted down to Monterey. He's in language school there. Really,
California.
really, really good situation, but it's stressful for him.
I played golf there. Many years ago.
I don't think he's playing too much golf.
So we were just in the process of celebrating successes, identifying things that really went well
Okay.
the course of the year for the PRT.
So Jay, thanks for making it in. Anything that you want to name as a success for our group over the last year?
Well, I really think that probably it's all of the things have been covered pretty well. Did you bring up the Creek Day, which you and I both worked on? Creek Day
Yeah,
was involved a lot of people, significant participation outside the area. I think was one of the values there. Much like the ambassador program, it introduces the community, us to a larger community.
I agree fully, Jay. That was a great event, and I'm sure you just reminded Nancy how great the Trails Ambassadors program is.
I was just waiting for someone else to bring it up. I wasn't gonna toot my own horn, so.
That really has been, I think, one of the cornerstones of success of this group. Because that's made a huge impact in parking issues and hiker awareness and so I think that's definitely, you should always toot your horn on that one.
Okay, toot toot.
Thank you.
All we need is the picture of you winning the award from
Oh, geez.
the TOPS people.
Volunteer of the year.
Yeah. I mean, that was significant. If you want to connect this to the group, that definitely was that's a pretty serious stage, because that was a large population of committed people who recognized what you've done to organize that activity and leverage the trails and community here.
And it's all because I got an awesome bunch of volunteers. So can't do anything without volunteers.
Okay. All right, so we've got I'll just do a quick summary. So wayfinding signage, internal PRT team building, identifying problems, forming solutions, respect and openness among the PRT, specific project successes, the Gazebo Park Phase 1, Aware Grant, Creek Day, and the Trail Ambassador Program. All right, take a bow. I'm going to switch gears a bit, and I'll be sharing the second of our documents. It's the Excel spreadsheet. So I'll bring that up. And what I'd propose here is, if you've made notes for yourself, I'll kind of go around the table. And Jesse, if you wouldn't mind, I'll save you for last and ask each of the commission member or committee members to share their inputs. I'll capture them. And then we'll look for areas of consensus or divergence. If the particular input you have, like if I ask what's your top priority, and you say it's the construct a trail on Red Devil Mountain, great, I'll put that in the existing capital improvements plan. If it's one that's not on there but should be, we've created a separate spreadsheet to track things that maybe aren't part of the existing PIP but ought to be. So with that in mind, Jay, can we, yeah, that's this.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of ask you like 1 through 5 or something like that.
Well,
Being top.
I didn't honestly understand how you
Okay,
wanted to approach this. If I can go last, I'll add to.
Okay.
that. I'd appreciate
All
that.
right, so Nancy will work the other way.
All right, so my list is, my very first one on the list is the gazebo. It's not even on this 2029 capital improvement program. And I know we're looking at grants for it, but that's our brand. And I really think that needs to be #1 priority that needs to be done in our town, because it's suffering and it needs some TLC. My second thing is the gazebo bridge, which yes, we have a grant in for that too. That would be on page 2, gazebo Arc Island bridge replacement. Keep going down right there.
Okay.
That would be my #2. I know we have a grant in for that, but we might only get the grant that band-aids it instead of replacing it fully. My #3 is on the first page, and it would be the park restrooms, but I would edit that to have it be park restrooms. You know, the gazebo park restrooms, the composting restrooms. We need some permanent pool park bathrooms. That's my #3.
Wait a minute. Did you go from pool park to gazebo park?
I want the bathrooms in all the parks to be on the capital improvement plan. So, you know, if we do something with the pool itself and those bathrooms, you know, that needs to be looked at also. Number 4 is renovate the marshal's office. I just think that is an asset that needs to be used. It's just sitting there empty. It's down at the very end.
Okay, that's the end of
That's my
2020.
number 4. And my last one is the pool, which is on the second page. And renovate swim pool right there. It doesn't have a
Oh, it's on a line item in CIP.
it is a line item.
Okay,
Great swim.
under which year?
The second one, it doesn't have the line that goes,
Oh, okay.
go down the second page.
Um,
Keep going. Keep going, right there. See where it says.
Okay, I got you. That's number 5.
And that's my 5.
Okay. All right, so we'll kind of work our way around. Phil?
I guess I got 2 things. You know, we had a recent fire yesterday. And I'm not quite sure what of our scope is fire mitigation in the community, especially for property owners. I know there's a lot of places that people haven't really cleaned up their, you know, backyards and front yards and side yards. And as dry as it is right now, I know the city maybe have some say in city property, but what do they have in residential property? And if there's ever a fire that could get up between trees, you know, it's stair steps. It starts in the ground usually, and then it goes to the smaller trees, and then it goes to the larger trees. We don't want a situation where we have a county fire, because that would just be disastrous. And especially the wind, I think we're going to have a bad fire season because it's been so dry. And so that's maybe a question for powers that be on what impact does this committee have on that.
And I should note that for these CIP, especially things that are cross-cutting, you know, fire mitigation isn't just a fire mitigation committee problem, it's a town problem.
Yeah.
So feel free to stray from the narrow confines of PRT business if you feel like there's something really critical that you'd like to highlight.
Thank you, Paul.
Then the other thing was maybe, I don't know how we can do this because it's going to cost us some money, but it's the town beautification. You know, planting flowers, that kind of stuff to make this town look maybe more accessible to the public. I know in smaller, I've mentioned this before, in some more, you know, small mountain towns, they really take an effort to make it look nice. And now I haven't seen that here, but maybe that's something we have to maybe look into in more depth, because if you put flowering baskets and stuff like that, and planters, you know, deer are gonna get. And yeah, or the bears.
It's so flowers.
Yeah, they sell flowers.
Okay.
But anyway, that's just let's get the comments from my family.
Okay. So fire mitigation and town beautification. All right. Thank you, Phil. Dawn?
Top of my list is fire mitigation. If we're directing or recommending capital expenditures, that to me, that's our top priority, is setting money aside to fire mitigation efforts. And not even on the list. Number 2 would be, now, do you want me to repeat other?
Yes, because what we're looking for is areas of consensus. So if someone else had the same vote, yes, your vote is still really important, because if there's a strong consensus around beautification or gazebo upgrades or fire mitigation, that's a signal to Jesse that, wow, there's a lot of energy there.
The number 1 would be gazebo island upgrade. those two. Money for that.
Okay, so first is the gazebo.
I do have number 3.
Okay, we'll loop back to you, Phil. Go ahead, Don.
Number 3 is the bridge, gazebo bridge,
Hold on. What was number 2?
gazebo island.
Okay, so number 1 was fire mitigation. Number 2 was the gazebo upgrade. And number 3 is the gazebo bridge. Okay, let me, hold on. I'm still scrolling.
The distilling pond by itself may not
It's,
address
it
that.
does not fit in my concept of, improving the water.
Okay, there we go.
It's because of it.
Mhm.
It's just not. It's
Okay.
made to control flooding.
Right, which would keep rough, which would keep
And the gazebo.
floating material out of the,
Okay, so maybe I might have captured that in the wrong area.
Okay, it's-
Just,
but it would not convert.
No playback. Because it's super suspended and that's what muddies up the water.
Well, the base of that lake is heavily clay, isn't it? It was just dug down into existing.
I've never sampled it. It just looks like a bunch of mulch. So
Isn't it clay?
Number 4.
Really? Really? I had some.
number 5. Did I?
With lake quality.
Yeah, okay. A number of things we can do there. Okay, but just starting to set money back and having a conceptual idea of how that's supposed to be done, because all that money, as far as I'm concerned, spent on the useless as far as water quality. We're either going to dig it out of that hole, or dig it out of the pond, sediment.
okay,
Probably a fair amount of sediment already building up in that lake basin, even if it did go into a stony or gravel based kind of base. Probably be a good idea to take a core sample and get an idea what that structure actually represents.
and I'm gonna, forgive me for interjecting, but I am gonna ask, right now, we're just gonna identify priorities. There's a ton of project planning to be,
Yes,
yeah, a lot to
that's
decide.
one of the reasons I didn't want to.
No, I get it.
Didn't have a real understanding of what you wanted to do.
No, I totally get it, yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me finish, Dawn, and we're gonna loop back to Phil with numbers, and then,
Yeah, number 5 is town public restrooms, pool park, sheriff's office, and gazebo.
all right, got it. And then Phil, you had a number 3 you wanted to
Yeah, well, if
add.
we're looking for extra cloud is the bridge.
Okay,
It's out of
the gazebo bridge.
the gazebo bridge.
Okay,
And another question, I don't know if this is a number 4 or not, but we've read some posts from, our the online Cascade neighbors, that kind of stuff. A lot of people really don't like the trail, and they've cut that road to a 1-lane road, which to me is, I don't know if that's a violation of some, city code or whatever, but you change the 2-lane road into a 1-lane.
this is the guardrail above the lake.
Right.
Okay.
Why is it even necessary? And, because most of that water is not going, it's gonna be channeled down that, drainage ditch they constructed, which is not all that deep. And hopefully, most of it, a lot of it's gonna go down the street, go right down the street.
Okay,
Big Jelly washers, so, you gotta listen to our people that live here, they just don't like that.
Yeah.
Guardrail, so that's my recommendation, something, we look into that.
okay. And then Jay?
Okay. Well, I hate to say I'm doing this real time. Now that I understand things a little bit better, I would put the gazebo also as number 1. That is both a brand and a physical constraint, the building may not be solid enough. I've walked around a little bit, made a comment that nail tests for dry rot.
No, I haven't done any physical tests. It's
Okay.
just all.
Well, there is some,
Conditions.
there is some rot at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that.
It comes into contact.
Gazebo would be number one. I would put restrooms as number two as well. We may find ourselves wanting to use something like the old marshal's office as a restroom, some function to relieve the pressure that the businesses would feel.
Mhm.
You see people wandering into the Blue Moose, looking around and walking back. That's not a good thing. That doesn't help traffic from visiting the community. Give that visitation a bad name that way.
Okay,
I don't understand why they're locked.
Well, usually the lost people would look in the Moose and go, yeah, I'm out of here. We'll let that go. I would put in one thing that's on this list that I would retreat. I didn't know how to judge it because this hasn't come up previously, but I'm kind of a proponent of the Crystal Trail. And down at the very bottom of these capital lists, there are two items referring to the Crystal Trail, improving the trail itself. And the neat one would be restoring the old 40-foot fall. That would be a cool long-term action. I don't know what the capital cost for that might be. The biggest part of that is actually getting the buy-in from our friends in the Public Works Department, the Colorado Water Supply,
Yes.
the CSU. They own a large portion of that right away. And negotiating with them to reach a real approval point. The trail was rebuilt way back, and it was done on a handshake agreement. And the CSU has no record of that. I walked that trail with a landscape architect who was responsible for it. And they had very strong reservations. They've never released that. So I don't think that really points to a capital issue, but as a priority, it's one of the things that would embellish the town, bring us some interest again.
But it is inherently a capital issue. It costs money, time and labor to reconstruct.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest part of it though is getting CSU to agree that they will let us do anything.
Are you asking them to let more water out?
well, forgive me for interjecting. I'm gonna-
No,
So we don't do any project management or planning. Let's just identify priorities because there's lots of good work to do. But this is just priorities right now.
I'm just saying, I'd like to see that on the list. It will not add a great deal of capital,
Mhm.
just leaving that go. The first stage of it needs to be getting an agreement, and it could be left to long-term development to bring that forward.
Okay,
I was just trying to understand what.
Oh, yeah.
What the number three was or whatever, what you.
My number three kind of spans those last two items on page 2.
the Crystal Falls.
Stabilizing the crystal, it might be handled as a Friends of Ute Pass Trail improvement action to come to a more stable point on sections of that trail.
Okay,
So just leave those three.
okay,
We'll go from there.
all right. So Jesse, you've been very patient, but I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in individually, and then let's look for trends.
All right. So my number one was fire mitigation. I think for obvious reasons, My number 2 sort of covered several of the items, but I'm gonna call it public safety. Crosswalks, speed bumps, along Ute Pass, and, the bridge repair, specifically the gazebo, island bridge is in terrible shape. So I consider all those things under, public safety. My number 3 was gazebo renovations and repairs. My number 4 is septic systems overall. I think part of the reason we have such a hard time getting park restrooms is that, and that the businesses aren't allowing people into their restrooms, is we really have a septic issue that is a huge capital project. I would love to see us pass on to someone else. But it's definitely a need. And my number 5 was park restrooms.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna zoom this, make it as big as we can. So you can see it. So looking at where there are areas of consensus, fire mitigation is a pretty strong, number one votes there. The gazebo, broadly stated, received 4 votes. For some folks, the number 1 priority. For others, a number 2 or 3. And then going to the existing CIP, I'm just going to scroll. Similarly, sometimes the 2025 projected renovation of the gazebo park and bridge replacement as a specific line item. In addition to that, just general gazebo upgrade the brand, whether it's landscaping, whether it's the physical structure of the building itself. So that seems to be an area of consensus. And then finally, park restrooms. Different committee members voted a different priority, but 4 voted as a significant priority in that 1 through 5. So that seems to be where there's a consensus. Fire mitigation, gazebos, park restrooms, fairly strong consensus as the committee's priorities.
Isn't that the only one on the water quality?
As a specific item, yes. Now, there are lots of things around the lake, like specifically with the gazebo. And the other thing is, when we get into the planning process, it might be that some of these things are bundled. You might say, we're going to tackle the gazebo as a whole, and that might include the bridge, the structure, the landscaping, the water. I mean, you could imagine different proposals that might be all encompassing. But this is just kind of a snapshot of where people stand right now.
Actually, Jesse's question about septic probably feeds into that lake water quality as well.
Right, yeah.
That, because there's no way that a septic system with tiny leach fields does not drain into the lake.
Where are these systems? Are they close to the reservoir or to the lake?
Forest Park. Like Pole Park,
Where's that?
across from the Mucky Duck.
But that's,
That's the businesses. They pump it up.
All the businesses feed into that one septic system, yeah.
And it just leaches out.
Yeah.
but this, for example, the septic systems of the people along Ute Pass Avenue, like particularly the old firehouse, can't be, the distance from the firehouse, there is no open ground for evaporation there. It definitely goes into water.
There was a suggestion on having a study done for many sewer systems just to answer that type of problem.
Yeah. I'm frankly surprised when I lived in, please forgive the aside, but I lived in a subdivision of Woodland Park, and the density of septic systems in the area called the Sun Valley subdivision was very high, and they, you had real restrictions on quality of that groundwater leaching through that area. I'd assume we have similar behavior up here, and houses are very close.
That's
sorry.
an expensive undertaking. Is to upgrade those septic systems. If, because they're sized based on the number of usage.
Yeah.
On the number of people. And if your usage increases, then your tank has to be bigger, your leach field has to be bigger. And like Jay said, you have to do a leaching study. And that takes more professionals and stuff like
Right.
that, and that's expensive.
So one of the things we'll do a bit later is we'll get into prioritization and say, okay, we've got lots of objectives, limited resources. So what is urgent, has to happen right now, and really important, high impact. If we don't do it, it's going to be a crisis now or later. And then some things that might be important but not urgent, like it's got to get done, but it might not have to get done in the summer of 2023. So yeah, we're gonna have to make some prioritization recommendations because yeah, it's every one of these ideas is really important. And then in an era of scarce resources, what goes to the top?
Yeah, what's doable with the money?
Right. Yeah. The classic governance challenge. So Jesse, before we go on, there's another part of this process where we're talking about the town strategic plan, but Jesse or any of the committee members, is there anything on capital improvements that we haven't addressed or captured?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So the other part of this process is a look at the town strategic plan, which is that other tab. It's also on the screen. And here there's an opportunity to address, there might be objectives that are fully met, like we've done this, it can be taken off the books because it's an accomplished fact. There might be others that might need to be modified. I'll just give you an example from my fire mitigation work. There is a goal on there to provide a fire-wise brochure. And instead of doing that as one giant project, we're providing monthly fire mitigation tips. So that'll be something I'd refine. I would say, well, we're doing it, but we're not doing it that way. So those are kind of the options. You might say this goal is accomplished, or you might make a recommendation as to how we accomplish it, or you might refine it and say, we want to tackle this a little bit differently. And so this might be an opportunity for just to kind of have a general committee-wide discussion on any of those objectives. You'll help me keep score if you can point to the number like 1.1 or whatever the case might be, or just the category, our health, for example. But yeah, so when you look at those strategic plan objectives, is there anything that's done, anything that needs a bit of tweaking, anything that needs a change in process?
3.5 is done.
Right, so 3.5, update wayfinding signs, so we can say that's done. Okay.
It's really hard to do 2.3 through 2.9 because that's more fire mitigation. And so I'm not really sure what has and has not been.
Right. Yeah, and if in this process, if you want to just limit your focus to the PRT tasks, the ones with which you're really familiar, we will have a meeting with fire mitigation next week to address some of these.
2.10 is actually related to Don's commentary. You know, the sediment traps, a sediment trap might be added. The Catamount Creek entrance or Catamount Creek inlet to the lake.
Absolutely.
You know, that
You know why? Because that's the source of our water. If we're not treating the source coming in, anything else what we're going to do, so
yeah,
it'll be secondary.
the sediment coming down is a component.
But we don't even have a concept yet.
Right.
Everybody's agreed on how we improve that.
Right.
So, oh, sorry. I was going to say, so is this, you mentioned a study, is that part of the process? Do we need to initiate a study?
Well, we have qualified people. Yes. Okay. Doesn't mean we have to pay for it.
Right.
But we do have qualified people down that
Mhm.
can help us do that type of concept.
Okay. All right, I captured that under 2.10.
The breakaway gates. 2.8,
Right.
thing that's been talked about a long time, and it's important that we get that modified to have a proper exit route. Okay,
What exactly is a breakaway?
ever seen one of those glass cases with an axe?
In case of, in case of fire.
Pulling my chain. What is that?
It's basically a lock gate. It can be unlocked by, there's various methods. I don't know them all, but it's like a fire exit, a door, but if you open it, it sounds long.
The need would be if there was a fire that came down to the base of Belvedere, trapping people at further up Belvedere. Vehicles would have to come around what used to be Water Street down to, and then down Hondo to allow those people to exit. And a breakaway gate would allow them to go through that. The property that
Another exit path.
it would go up towards the waterfall. And to use that, the bridge would have to be evaluated as well. Evaluate bridge stability is really important. I don't know if that bridge would hold up. Especially with many larger vehicles.
Well, in the old days, they always overbuilt anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I want to say. I haven't even gone underneath there, never looked at it, but I'm just saying for the most part, thing was overbuilt back in those days.
But I'm pretty sure I was up there when the water department was rebuilding the tank, and they seemed to come up straight from Hondo every time. I don't know if they ever used that, so it may not have been
That
tested.
turnaround area is on the other side of the bridge.
I think the support beams are steel under the bridge.
Okay.
And
So-
the planks, I have no condition of them, but I think the support frame is steel, so.
And so for our purposes, yeah, we gotta do an assessment of that bridge. There's no point in installing the gates if it leads to an unstable bridge, I guess is the point, yeah.
But the phrasing there needs study.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done to assess and follow up on
Let's
that.
just say,
assessment.
it would hold a normal car. And if I'm wanting to exit because I'm trapped up Belvedere, that's the only way out.
Right.
And that's something that can be done relatively easy. Right now, your car could not push open those gates.
Oh, yeah, the car can't push them open. I just commented and thought we need to understand what gates are available, what it would cost, how to deal with it, and know that the bridge would hold us.
Also, road, probably, that's really more of a hiking trail than a road. Going up there.
Yeah, no, the road is in good shape. It's been resurfaced. Yeah, the city put in a fair amount of reclaimed asphalt. Similar.
You did that, not the city.
Okay.
3.2, it was bought by a private business, and so I think that is taken care of.
I have a few, let's see, 1.1. We have, I would say that is partially done because we did do the 88 fishing pier. 1.4 is the connecting the American Discovery Trail through downtown. I know that is something that's in discussion right now, between Historic and the Trails Committee. 1.6 is about recycling, and we are working on that currently with the bearware and the dumpster blinds.
and the RRPO grant that we got permission from board.
Exactly.
And there was a third one, Barraware, REEO, and what
And
was it?
the dumpster blind is the physical asset to get that done.
Okay.
And then 4.3, I jumped way down. 4.3 is about temporary and spillover parking from hiking. And I think that through the Trails Ambassadors program, we've and doing the diagonal parking in front of the tennis court, we have made that one not as necessary or relevant as it once was.
Okay.
And there was one on here that I thought was critical that I would like to see done, which was maintaining a list of grants that are available and having that list published to the committees so that we can look at ways to get our projects funded. Becky's done a great job of bringing those to us. But I think formalizing a list just helps us all stay on top of it.
Is that item 1.3, Jesse? Do you think that covers that?
Yes, I am saying that is something that we've not accomplished yet, but I would really like to see that one get some priority.
Okay, so to summarize, under the objective 1.3 was formalize a list of grants and funding sources and make that available to committees. 1.4, the connection of the American Discovery Trail. That's under discussion with the Historic Green Mountain Falls Association. 1.6 is in progress. That's the recycling program. Down to objective 2, health. The 2.8, the break rate gates, a whole number of issues there. The gates, the integrity of the bridge, the accessibility of the road. And then under 2.10, water quality in the lake, a number of possible injects, adding a sediment trap at the Catamount Creek Inlet, relying on volunteer labor to offset some of the costs of what might be an expensive and complex project. 3.2 can be removed because that's been bought by a private business. Similarly, 3.5, wayfinding signs is done. Then under objective 4, our development, 4.3, temporary and spillover parking, the Trail Ambassador program, and tennis court parking have addressed that, or at least mitigated that issue. So before we enter into a discussion on priorities, anything else on any of the strategic plan?
The update of the land use code has been done.
Yeah, where's that? Yeah, great point, Don. It's done. Yeah.
Also, item 3.4, parking and trail finder smartphone application. If the various trail maps that are being developed by Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation could be linked on the town website, that would get us most of the way there. It would not be it might need a cover sheet or an application sheet, but I think a large part of that is in process. So it basically just needs to be, the trail maps would have to be completed. Several of them are. I know the Pittman map is in excellent shape. If that was grouped under an umbrella, that would be done. So that's within reach without a great deal of difficulty.
And where does this fall in the,
That's item 3.4.
I would say that's in progress,
Progress.
in work.
and that's through linking existing products into an overarching,
And we're also obtaining new trail maps that can go to that.
Yeah, the new trail maps would be essential for that because they're going to be more accurate and would not be hostage to another organization's or whims.
okay.
And Paul, I have one more on item 5.3, which is concerning free access to Wi-Fi around downtown and the lake. And I'd like to note that accomplishing that would help the PRT with some of its goals as far as getting maps and QR codes working. I think that's an important one that I would like to add some priority to. I skipped to the next section, but that's okay.
Yes, that's a great point. And that's a great example of a cross-cutting issue where that cell service could benefit PRT, it could benefit fire mitigation, planning. It's a cross-cutting issue with multiple benefits. Okay. All right, so before we leave the strategic plan and start discussing priorities, any last comments?
Did you have a 2.1 as in process? A development of our public education.
Yes, in fact, that's my life. But no, I didn't record it here. In progress, yes, that's what I try to do every month. But yeah, I think hold on, I may have generated some feedback. Hold on. Jesse, is it possible your mic is open?
Muted.
Hold on. Test now, test. Okay, all right, we fixed it. Okay. All right, so let's switch screens then and talk prioritization, because yeah, many really important initiatives, but scarce time and money. And so if you're a fan of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you've no doubt seen this quad chart before. Covey says, setting priorities is about identifying importance and urgency. Urgency is time sensitivity. It has to happen right now. It can't wait. And importance is its overall consequence. So establishing that important and urgent quadrant is the things that have to happen right now. If they don't, there'll be a catastrophic outcome. In an emergency room, this is life, limb, and eyesight. In an airport, it's safety of flight. And so the key is in that urgent important category, you try to keep that limited, because if you have 10 number 1 priorities, you have to sort that out a bit further. The important but not urgent quadrant is, yes, it's consequential, it has to happen, but it might not have to happen in the summer of 2023. It might be that it's something that could wait down the road. In my Army background, preventive maintenance is like this. You got to fix your equipment, got to lube the road wheels on a tracked vehicle. If you don't do it Monday and you do it Tuesday, that's okay. If you don't do it 3 months in a row, you got a catastrophe. So that's the important, not urgent. And then those other 2 quadrants on the bottom are the stuff we might think about eliminating or deprioritizing. Sometimes tasks are done because they've always been done that way, but they take resources. They might have once been necessary, but they're no longer. That might fall into that neither important nor urgent quadrant. So what I propose is that we start with that urgent and important, the things that have to happen, and they really have to happen fairly soon. Now, these inputs are going to the calendar year 24 budget, so it might be that really soon means within the next budget year cycle. But it's something that we would feel ought not wait. And ideally, we can limit those to just 1, 2, or 3 that the board really has a clear message of this is important to us.
Can I clarify, Paul? So what we're putting in these quadrants are the things that we prioritized previously.
Yes, so
So our number 1 through 5, and now we're going to go and sort of decide amongst ourselves, what is the most important? Well, obviously it's going to be fire mitigation because there was 3 ones. I mean, I didn't have that as my priority because I was staying within my PRT box. But if I get outside of my PRT box, of course, fire mitigation is the most important catastrophic where things could happen. So I'm not speaking for the whole group, but I think that's our number 1, and that's the only thing that should be in there.
That was my number 1.
Absolutely, yeah.
I agree. But I have a question. What falls under that? As
Yeah.
far as tasks, activities, it's a broad field.
right.
So I think that has to be defined.
We're talking about capital projects, right?
Well, these inputs are primarily for the board to make 2024 budget decisions.
Mhm.
So while there might be things that are outside the budget, like for example, Friday, there's an exercise with El Paso Emergency Management, El Paso County Emergency Management. Doesn't cost the town anything. But things like right-of-way fire mitigation, where we're clearing or mitigating public lands, stuff the town owns, that would be a capital expenditure. That money's got to come from somewhere.
And contra-wise, asking the board to address the legal actions or town code associated with fire mitigation is not part of the capital project. That's not our range, even though really pushing the town. I would hope that the Board of Trustees get very serious about applying fire mitigation standards to private property. I have neighbors that are
Yeah.
not doing
At
anything.
least notify, those people that even don't live here.
Right, but that's not a capital project.
Not a capital
Right.
project.
Oh, but
But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you could, either notify them by email or mail or something like that, but maybe this is something you need to consider as a property owner here in town.
Yeah, but
And that may cost some money.
is that our,
Yes, that could be an input because it's not just the capital budget, but it could be priorities for the town. Like, for
I
example,
wanted to clarify
Yeah,
whether
the-
that was
Yeah.
part of what we should be talking about.
like we might, say that the marshal or the town staff is going to provide information to residents. Hey, you've got a hazardous tree here. You've got a nuisance tree that's going to put your neighbors at risk.
Yeah,
I have a neighbor.
there was a map put together, you may have been involved with it, the map of property by property fire mitigation standards. And there was, in that map, there was a reference to whether the fire department would come and rescue you because your house has has large concentrations of nuisance trees.
Right.
I don't remember exactly what the map was called, but it's color coded.
Yeah, or just accessibility. Like there's some places
Right.
fire truck just can't go, not because they don't want to, but they just can't.
Mhm.
Yeah, so educating our neighbors would be an example of a town project that would cost money, right? Public information campaigns. But it might tell you, hey, Paul, you're way at the southwest end of town. We're not getting a fire truck up to you. You need to plan for your own evacuation.
putting, perhaps there's a cost associated with having the marshal go visit people for violating the nuisance tree code.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if that's a capital cost or a,
It's a prioritization of a town resource to say,
okay,
you know, the marshal has to worry about traffic enforcement and, you know, public safety, and, you know, emergency assistance and maybe code enforcement or nuisance tree code enforcement. So yeah, that's a commitment of the town's resource.
that I think is one of the highest priorities that the town could come to. That is really a problem.
You know, we've lived here a number of years. Property next door, the property across the street, nobody has done anything. Or even probably notified those people that, you know, their property is a hazard.
Right.
And they may not be aware of that, you know, or they may not be know the culture or, you know, or.
Because I have a statement that I'm going to jump in here for just a second. Because I'm going to go to the big meeting, which is the summary of all of the committees working on this. I feel very comfortable going and saying, you know, that PRT thinks fire mitigation is top number one priority. But what I want to make sure and come away from here today is it like if we take our top 5 priorities and put them into this quadrant, where do they land so that I can represent this committee's wishes? You know, fire mitigation, we agree is top and is most important. Where do the gazebo repairs fall into this quadrant? Can we look at it like that, Paul?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jesse, because again, yeah, you were representing the Trails Committee with your colleagues. Yeah. So I'll just, to summarize, to go back to some of our inputs. Yeah, fire mitigation was a top priority, but also park restrooms were a very high priority. Gazebo repair and improvement holistically, whether it was landscaping, structures. The bridge was also mentioned several times.
Well, with that in mind, Jesse, and going back to my PRT box, gazebo and gazebo bridge are high priority. I mean, that's our brand. That's what we're known for. And if that gazebo falls down and it's looking so sad right now without having any paint and the structure we don't know, I mean, if that gazebo falls down, that'd be a sad day for Green Mountain Falls because
Especially if somebody's underneath it.
exactly. Or if the bridge, you know, we need to, in our PRT box, that is number one that I feel. We need to protect our brand.
How about we put, I would say urgent and important, any public safety issues regarding the parks, the recreation and the trails. And then under important but not urgent would be, you know, the superficial things. You know, like it'd be nice to have all of our restrooms working, but it's not a public safety issue.
Yeah, I like that. I like that, Don.
Yeah.
I look at it. The bridge clearly is a potential safety issue.
So then under urgent and important, we're gonna have gazebo repairs, and then we're gonna have public safety issues such as bridges, speed bumps, crosswalks. What else did we have, Don? Under public safety?
The recreation equipment, any safety issue that they need to go taken out or repaired or replaced.
I think that's well said.
Isn't one of the rides at the gazebo park playground broken?
It's been taken off.
Oh, it has been. Okay, so we could say some of that's been done. But let's step forward.
If, you know, if we're putting improvements in a restroom, it's different than not having a restroom working at all. That could be a public safety hazard. So I think we could qualify everything within our purview in parks, recreation, and trails between urgent and important.
So,
Yeah, I would like to see public restrooms left as urgent as important because if we have visitors that don't have a place to go to the restroom, it's a scar on the town.
Be a public health hazard.
are there any things that fall in the important but not urgent category? Like maybe they don't get addressed this budget cycle, but
I have two.
Yeah.
The pool. I think the pool is important. Is it urgent? I think we sort of have a stopgap for it, like Don was saying at the board meeting, but it still needs to be addressed. I mean, there's some mechanical issues that need to be addressed with it, and they're expensive. And my second one would be the marshal's office. I know that sort of goes with the bathrooms too, but the space that's not the bathrooms it's an asset that's not being used right now, and it could be used, and it's a really cool thing, but it's just sitting there empty right now.
Clean in the building.
There's 2 bathrooms.
That connects into the septic system that goes up.
I think it's hooked to the fountain in the pond.
Don.
Sorry.
I don't know if you
So,
guys, I don't know if you
yeah.
guys agree with those two, but that's sort of what I look at, and you can discuss. I mean, you wrote them down, but you don't have to write them down in there.
well, they're there for discussion, you know, is that, because again, everything can't fall into that urgent and important category because we're still gonna have the limited resource issue. We can't do everything, and we're gonna have to make some hard choices at some point.
Yeah, I would like to see it there also because it's a connection and a possible solution to adding public restrooms. And in our strategies, there was one that was listed to look at the old fire station. And I saw that one was going to be eliminated, and I wonder if we might edit that one to be the old marshal's office.
I got you. So rather than just declare that done, like change the focus.
Right, right.
All right, I'm making a note of that.
Don, were there any of your top 5 that didn't get listed in what we just did?
Only in the water clarity, the water quality of Gazebo Lake was among my 5.
Where would you want to put that in this quadrant?
I suppose it would be, it's neither. That's a tough one. I mean, we've survived all these years with it just like it is, okay? But I suppose it would be the 3rd category, urgent but not important. Or is that?
I would maybe flip that because urgent means it's time sensitive.
Okay, I meant important,
Yeah.
but not urgent. Sorry.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that makes sense.
Yeah. Phil, I'll ask you the same thing. Was there anything in your top, I think you did 3, that didn't make it into the quadrant?
You know, the beautification thing is, you know, it's neither important nor urgent, but it's something to consider. My other one was the compromise of the road above the silly pond, or Stilling Pond, making that a one-way road. I think that's important, but not urgent. That, to me, that kind of borders on a safety issue.
Mhm.
If you have two cars coming the opposite direction, you know, what are they gonna do? So,
Actually, I think you're gonna see that become important and urgent from the fire mitigation group,
you know,
you know.
I don't know who designed that, but it's very poorly thought out. That should be a two-way road.
Even without the guardrails, that is not a two-way road
Oh,
anymore.
yeah, it's pretty narrow, but you could, without the guardrail, you could make it, you could get past. It's gonna be, the road really needs to be widened.
That
Right. Yeah, so that'd be a classic example of an important but not urgent, like, doesn't have to happen this year, but if we let it go long enough, it's a public safety issue, it's a fire mitigation issue, it's one of those cross-cutting issues that has multiple impacts.
And I've read some comments from, you know, the community that they're really upset with that, the way it's been designed, so.
All right. Oh, pardon me, Jesse, sorry.
Oh, I just agreed that it's terrible.
One useful question to ask in a prioritization exercise is, what should we stop doing? Because there's a lot of stuff we're adding, like these are all important issues, and I can't think of one you raised that's not important. But is there anything that we're currently doing, currently spending money on, currently spending staff hours on, or volunteer labor on, that we should stop? It's just not a good investment of our scarce resources. That might be in that neither important nor urgent. Because you put it in that category, you're saying we should just stop doing it.
Can't answer that question directly because, in my opinion, the accounting system that the town is operating under doesn't give us that specific information on expenditures.
We could add that as an important but not urgent issue to say, hey, greater transparency in accounting. We don't know where the resources are going.
Not a, I don't think transparency would infer something that's being covered. We just, what I would like to see is some, more line items on how the town spends its money. Say, for instance, pool, what we pay for electricity, gas, water, labor, labor that's even sectioned out by Public Works on how much time they're spending in the pool versus grading the road.
Okay.
We don't have that kind of.
How much, yeah, detailing rather than, more detailed breakdowns of the efforts of the town to better allocate that.
Is that public record? Is that public information? Or is that just?
It should be public
Well,
information.
Seems like it's held.
I think Don's comment is that it's not really broken down. It's just Public Works spends X.
Yeah.
And the work is not tracked.
Yes, he agrees.
Yeah, it's not published in such a way that we can see how resources are being itemized. I don't think it's the accounting software. I think it's just what's being published and selected by town staff. But I heard Bo speaking to Sunday King about this in the last Board of Trustees meeting, so I know it's on other people's minds. But I do think it's important, transparency in how resources are being spent.
Can we, how, it's a pretty general statement. How would we state it a little bit more detailed, or would you want to?
I think it could be a statement within our quadrant. Something that's important and not urgent, that there's a more detailed description of how resources, in our case pertaining to PRT, are actually dedicated. Does that make sense, Paul, to have a statement like that there?
Yes, how, when we capture that, how resources are dedicated.
and I have another statement to put on. I think you all will agree as important but not urgent. And I think it's something that our group would like to do would be establishing a town beautification plan, which is what I'm hearing from Phil. But if we actually established a plan and quantified what that means, I think that would be a great project for this group.
I think not only a beautification, but, you know, working with Historical Green Mountain Falls and Green Box and, you know, the art also. You know, having sort of a 3-5-year plan to beautify the town, not only with flowers, but with the art.
I like that. A comprehensive plan
Yeah.
that would also incorporate adopt a park.
Exactly.
So they kind of created continuity in town and we don't have something that's not.
Yeah, and that the Adopt a Park has started, it's already a little down the road, the little triangle park off Belvedere. And you can cite that as the beginning of that process. Or the little park that you and Todd have that Nancy and Todd have adopted. That gets that on the money, says that it's in progress, and we need to flesh this out and carry it further.
Okay.
The cleanup day also will be part of that process. Regular, you know, picking that cleanup.
Citizens Day?
Citizens Day is a regular process for the town to build and carry that forward.
Okay.
We're looking for a overhead label of downtown
Yeah.
town beautification.
Advance the town beautification process that has been begun. And then Jesse, if you're talking to the broader meeting, to say we've started these activities with Adopt a Park, with cleanup, with Creek Week, to get things moving forward. We want to flesh this out further.
No pun intended.
Sweep it out further.
All right. So is there, you know, I know Don mentioned that we need more detail before we talk about dropping any initiatives. So before we move past that category, is there anything where you feel like you have enough information to say this is a practice we could discontinue? Or something taking up resources that maybe are better used elsewhere? And if not, that's okay. You know, it's not necessary to check every box, but that is, you know.
Well, this is just for.
Well,
Upcoming budget year 20. Right.
yeah. Maybe a way to say this, Paul, fits in that category is, I'll note that I would say over the last 3 summers, we seem to have a lot of, we have adequate public work staff through the winter, but as we have rolled into the last 3 summers, we've had a critical downturn in those employees, meaning not enough employees to get the work done. So while we budget time and resources, we aren't doing a great job of ensuring that they're available when they're in demand. So if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, I'm capturing that. Insufficient public works employees this summer. So it might just be the distribution of where we're buying those hours. Okay. All right, so just to recap the inputs we've received, the urgent and important categories include the gazebo improvement, broadly speaking, the structure, the bridge, landscaping, public safety issues, trails, roads, bridges, rec equipment, crosswalks, public restrooms, and fire mitigation broadly, noting that fire mitigation is kind of a town priority and not, narrowly a PRT priority. And then under the important but not urgent, the pool, the marshal's office, water quality in the lake, town beautification, to include a comprehensive town beautification plan, working with Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation, Green Box Art, building on existing initiatives like the Cleanup Day / Citizens Day, and advancing those processes that have already begun. And then finally, kind of as a management process, greater clarity and transparency on where funds are going at the line item level of detail, not just public works, but road improvement, pool repair, whatever the category might be. Well, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So that's, better data to help us manage.
Who prepares that budget?
Well, I don't want to stray outside my lane here. I think that's probably a better question to address to Becky and
Just kind of
Todd.
general question.
Yeah.
Staff presents a budget to the board and then they look through it and then give recommendations. And this is gonna help because it's gonna prioritize what the money is spent on. So it's ultimately the board that approves.
Yeah. But the detailing would be very useful. We had there were concerns a couple years ago that the town parks were not mowed prior to, going into the summer. Mowing only took place right before Bronc Day and things were really rough. And detailing, the effort expended would be useful to keep track and respond to that.
Be a good thing to have for our next meeting or upcoming meetings, just to see that budget in paper.
I think the budget today is even detailed,
Yeah,
probably just ad hoc.
yeah,
It's online. It's on the town website.
it is, okay.
It's on the town website, but does it go into that level of detail?
That's what it is.
This budget is
All
not.
right, Paul, where do we-
Budget.
It's just a number.
So, yeah, Jesse, let me just then detail kind of next steps. If everybody's happy with these inputs, Jesse, tomorrow I will send you these raw notes as well as kind of some overarching comments. I'll provide that to you by email. The PRT is the second committee with whom I've met. Planning Commission met last night, you all today, fire mitigation on Monday, so that by next week, all the committee chairs will have had a chance both to provide these inputs and then see the results. And then we'll start looking for a mutually convenient time for the committee chairs to gather and follow the same process of, funneling up your inputs into a consolidated recommendation to the board that kind of expresses priorities, looking for areas of consensus where there's broad agreement on prioritization and making the town budget like those priorities.
Well, could you copy me on that?
Yes.
Notes?
Oh, yes, that's true. Since I've taken your notes, I probably should, keep you informed. Yeah. So Jesse, is that acceptable as a way forward?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate you taking us through this workshop tonight, Paul.
Oh, yeah, happy to do it. Again, I'm a neighbor. I have a vested interest in every one of the items you brought up today. So yeah, and just as a frequent hiker, let me just give a shout out to all your good work because I moved here for these trails, and so I love it here, and really appreciate all you've done to make it so pretty. All right, with that, I will stop sharing my screen. You may have other work to do. I'm actually gonna, Jesse, if it's okay, I'll be logging off of Zoom.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
And I know
Thank
you
you,
have
Paul.
other work to do besides my floor show, so.
A couple of things.
Yeah. All right, well, yeah, thank you for the time.
My lack of familiarity.
Do you manage the time that way?
Oh, so in my previous life, My job was babysitting 3-star generals and trying to get them to make a decision. So you all are wonderful. This is like, this is the most collaborative group I've ever seen compared to my old life. So, yeah. Just love
Job done.
it.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, group. So we're gonna move on to item number 7A, is that right? Correspondence?
That's correct.
I don't know what happened to 6, but it left us.
Whoopsie.
7A.
Something wrong with the agenda.
Well, the agenda also said 3 o'clock for the meeting time. Or there, one of the announcements. Oh, excuse me, yeah, it's not the agenda,
Thursday rather than Wednesday. You didn't pay much attention.
Thursday rather than Wednesday. The town website says fourth Wednesday is reserved at 3 o'clock. That's the piece that's not yours. That's,
That's our old meeting time when Catherine.
okay, so it's just been carried over from that.
Yeah. it needs to
Yeah,
be-
we didn't know about that. Okay, no
That's a
worries.
good, yeah, that's a good point. Nancy, do you want to would you mind asking town staff to update that?
I can do that.
Although we don't really have a regular meeting schedule, we try. Okay, item 7A is correspondence. I don't have a way to share screen. It is in everyone's meeting packet and I will read it. Nancy Intenza, who was one of the participants at our town at our meeting about the Stilling Basin Park, she sent me a Facebook message, which says, my wheels have been spinning thinking about names for the park. I keep coming back to Memorial Park in light of the benches being there to memorialize lost loved ones, and who would also love to see significant use of the red choke cherries, with a nod to the memorial that was removed over by the land office. I wasn't sure how submissions were being solicited, so here is one. So I think we just add that into the minutes, Nancy, and consider that a contender when we are naming that park in our next workshop about that.
Okey dokey.
All right. I don't think there's any action on that one.
Nope.
Anything else on that, anyone? Hearing none, we're going to move to 8A reports, volunteer equipment list for Spring Community Workday. Who wants to take us through that list?
That was me. That was something you tasked me with. And I didn't add Don's information on that for the split rail fences because he said he was gonna do that not on the community work day. So this was a combination of Jay and mine and Don's goose poo. And just how many volunteers we said we were needing and the equipment, because I think you were gonna take that to the town manager and ask for the equipment that's needed. And also, were you going to discuss how we were going to move it to a different day?
Yes, I think I can discuss this now. If it's okay with the board, I realize that I will not be in the country on May the 6th, which was our top choice date. And so I wondered if the group would agree to let us use our backup date of May the 13th. Okay.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Jay, does that work with your schedule?
I'm just pulling up a schedule now.
Okay, Phil?
Fine. The 13th is fine for me.
Okay, all right. How about you, Don?
Yeah.
Then, Don, as you look at this equipment list, is there anything that you see, number one, anything that you see missing, number two, that like, for instance, I'll bring my push mower. So Nancy, you can say there's one there.
Okay. So I'll delete one push mower.
Yeah, and just, if you wouldn't mind noting where the one's coming from.
Sure.
I didn't print that part. I'm just kind of curious.
Questions though, if we're gonna use your shop vac, do we have electrical outlets available out there?
Extension cords.
I've got extension cords, and if
Yeah,
we've got shop vac, if they don't have one.
I have access to a shop vac, to a portable, it's a leaf blower that functions as a vacuum. Vacuum chipper kind of arrangement. I don't know if you.
Don, yeah,
It
Don,
does,
there are electrical outlets in the park to answer your question.
Are they live? Are they locked up? Are they?
Yeah, Nancy, you could add that as another tool, access to electrical outlets.
And the other thing was, hoses for washing the sidewalk. We need to have those, hose bids activated. They're not,
Yeah, let's,
and I don't, they are, so we'll need to make sure we have enough hose length to get the work done.
so I'll bring 2 additional hoses to the 2 that you're requesting, and we can use the water hydrant at Green Box.
We'll need like 400 feet of hose if we're just using one hose bib.
Okay, Nancy, not only do we need access to electrical, we need access to water. This is great. This is great work.
access to water at the pool park as well. Pool park has, I've previously spoken with Becky about that for other issues. But particularly, Jesse, the fitness court would benefit from a good wash down.
Okay.
I sweep that periodically, and you can't really extract some of the pine needles without water. You don't want to use a pressure washer there, but you do want to use something that would flush that. There are hoses at pool park, but access to that area and the water supply there would be very useful for both the tennis court and the fitness court.
Got it.
Is that water on? Did they turn it off during the winter?
I don't know. I know that it has to be turned on from within the building, so I assume that may be available.
That's why I'm adding it to the list.
I've got some garden.
Yeah.
Thing, do we need any extension cords or anything like that?
We've got some, I think,
I've got some, but I don't.
depending on where the outlets are. We'll just have to do some logistics
Okay.
once we find
Well,
out
the
where
only
the
thing
hose.
you probably want is for like blowers or something.
That shop vac particularly, not many people, although it's an opportunity to buy another set of DeWalt DeWalt batteries.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to wheelbarrows.
I've got one.
I've got one as well. The biggest thing here though is when we are trucking this stuff around, we're going to need to have some central location to dump this stuff.
Yeah, we have at the bottom of the list a roll-off dumpster, which I'll talk to Becky about. Jay.
Okay. Good. I didn't see that. Thank you.
That's okay. I'm just trying to keep us on
Good.
track. Brooms, I know I've got a push broom that I can bring. And we'll all let's all label our own stuff so that we
Mhm.
have a good chance of getting it back.
Jesse, are we looking at the town providing these tools, or are we?
I'm Yeah, I'll explain my process. I'm gonna take this list that Nancy's updating. I'm gonna go to the town manager and probably Public Works and see what they are able to provide. And the only reason I'm saying that I've got a wheelbarrow is if the town can't provide one, I know where I'm gonna get one. So we're skipping a step.
Okay.
I've got 2 pitchforks, by the way. That's just, you know, we kind of anticipate. I think what you're saying is that you're gonna ask them, hey, what do you have? They may come up short on several of these things, and then we need to share that list to add in our own equipment.
Exactly.
What are the pitchforks for? They're just for deals?
Picking up the debris from the creek.
Oh,
The creek is, especially the lower end of the creek along the contrail is pretty mucked up. Okay. And mowing around that will also be interesting.
All right, we skipped garden rakes.
Yeah, I've got a couple garden rakes that I'll supplement, but that should be listed. That's one of if the town doesn't have that, that's pretty sad.
what day is that? Is that Saturday? Is that a Saturday?
It's
Saturday.
best for it to be Saturday, yeah.
Saturday's 13th.
I'll try to sequester some of my grandchildren.
Please do.
I'm
Bill.
sure they'll be happy to.
No, that's gonna be the critical thing, is to get lots of volunteers there and community support. Let's stay on this list so we've got tools for everyone to use. So Jay could possibly provide some garden rakes if we need them.
Right.
Square shovel. I have 2 of those. Jay's already said he's got 2 pitchforks. Leaf rakes. I know I got one.
We've got plenty of those.
I'm sure we can find enough of those.
And we've gone up to 4 garden hoses now. I do have plastic bags from the last creek cleanup, so we'll use those.
One of the things we'll also need is a pickup tools. Jesse, I think you may have pickup devices from Creek Week.
Mhm.
Those should be added to that list, because you're bound to find something you don't want to handle.
Are we gonna do
We
any
have
tree trimming?
Disposable.
Are we gonna do any tree trimming during this time?
I'd listed that as part of my job, part of my role, and that's going to be something that would be done not on the
Out.
Saturday, but during the week before,
Oh,
because that's 1 or 2 people, probably one to hold a ladder and move some stuff,
Got
but it's not part of it.
got a chainsaw that has an extension arm.
I have a tree trimming chainsaw. You know, it's like 10 feet long.
Okay, good.
DeWalt. And a small saw. I would handle that. Jesse, I just wanted to mention this because this is something that, as a volunteer job, I'd already discussed this with Becky. I discussed this last year, actually, and just wondered, do you want me to file a Becky asked me to file a volunteer form for that activity. Specifically, do you want me to fold this underneath the spring community workday, or just submit that to her myself?
I'd like you to submit it to her electronically through email and copy me in.
Okay, will do.
And anyone who will be assisting you, especially since your work is going to happen prior to the community workday. I think it's important that we get that in. Don, same on anything that's happening with split rail fence. And Nancy, while you're adding things to this list, you got the pickup sticks. And also, if you'll make a note on this split rail fence, because that's a budget item that will be included in this meeting that I'm having with the town manager. So we got through disposable gloves. I have no solution, except for we can get some bought. Hand sanitizer, there's actually a lot of that left from creek cleanup week, so I'll bring that. Are you talking about dust masks here?
I think masks were Don's, on his poo list. For his poo list, he put
Okay.
masks.
How many people do we anticipate blowing goose poo around with the blower? I'm gonna be cleaning the fitness court when that happens.
I haven't.
You know, we just got a package of them. I'm not planning on wearing one, but maybe some of the volunteers feel better if they had a mask.
I'll
When
bring
they're
you,
dealing with the blue. That's all I can say.
I have
Okay.
Ben 95s. So,
Okay, great. Is tool disinfectant Lysol?
No, I've got some Clorox bleach spray.
Okay.
I'll bring to clean the tools when we're done with them.
Nancy, will you add one more thing, which is the digital asset?
What?
Digital asset, the Facebook, the marketing for volunteers and awareness.
Oh,
posting it on Facebook to make people aware of it.
and are you,
Yes,
you're working on the flyer, right? Okay.
yeah.
We have a flyer or a post down at the post office for that.
Yeah, we'll,
That's a good place that's where a lot of people come in and see that.
yeah, the town has a whole encased for town news.
Okay, can you guys think of anything else for this list? Just over a month, and I think we are doing a really nice job of getting prepared for this. Thank you all. HSA report, McIntyre.
Well, Nancy gave me this historic fund. Pronounce that for me.
Annotated.
Annotated scope of work. Very, very, very detailed. I mean, not put a report like this together. Do we have an example of a
It's a
drawing or
very,
something like that to
Yeah.
present this? Because there's a lot of things that we have to put together.
Well, this piece is not needed for this grant.
It's not.
No.
Which-
This comes after this grant.
Okay, what specifically do we have to have for the architecture, the engineering assessment?
Oh, it was on my, I can give that to you. That was on,
We can maybe get together maybe after this meeting, because I think we need to go through this in some detail to find out. Because it gets into different plans, this non-competitive appliance here. This is the 15,000. The way I read this is an emergency grant to keep the structure it's urgent and important. So that's the $15,000. But there is an application and it asks for an email address and personal contact information and, which email address do we give for our application? And those are some of the questions that I got into. Also, it mentions that whoever's preparing this report must be a licensed architect or engineer in the state of Colorado. And I don't know if that's really necessary for this, but if we get into actual work for the gazebo, engineering work, actually construction work, then that has to be done by an architect or civil engineer for state of Colorado, which I'm not.
Ron might sign off on it if we do the paperwork.
if you prepare the report and get all the legwork and then just give that, you know, to the powers that be to okay that, then that's probably what we need to do. But somebody has to do the work.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea, Don.
So that assessment would include, for example, the physical checks on the amount of dry rot and so forth.
Well,
I don't know.
the engineering would actually, professional engineering firm would come out and look at the structural deficiencies, if anybody, to see what is required and maybe recommend some things that need to be, you know, performed.
Yeah, the HSA grant is only for the assessment. Then you take that grant, you take what the engineers have made, and then you go and get a bigger grant to do all the work.
This is very, very detailed.
Yes, and that's for the second phase. That's second phase.
You have to have, you know, proper description and plot, and pictures, the photographs and stuff like that.
Curious that this is the initial, this giant packet is the initial.
This is only part of it.
Okay.
It's only part.
But this gets into actual, try to get a structure on the historical. There's a lot more to this.
So, let's see. Phil, when we do report, that's just like, I'll do some housekeeping work here. When we do committee reports, it's just an informal way for you to update us on where you're at in this project. And ask questions, which is what we're doing. So when we ask for a report, just know that's what we're asking for. And then I'm confused because I'm in Zoom land and I'm not there to see everyone's facial expressions. But where are we at in the phase 1 application? Which is am I understanding correct that the phase 1 application is to get a grant,
Correct. I don't know, where are you in phase 1?
Research.
Yeah, it's very complicated situation.
Okay.
It's gonna
Okay.
take a bit. That's the reason I put it on one of my high priorities for some capital improvement, because this is not a grant that is gonna be an easy grant to apply for. It is involved. It's very detailed and involved, like I said at the last meeting.
That's why I noted in previous meetings that there are professionals,
Yeah,
people hired just to do these.
Yeah.
Grant applications.
I can understand why, because it is a complex, detailed grant. That's gonna take a lot of man hours. So, and that's what I was sort of forewarning at the last meeting is like, do we have the capacity to do that in our little committee?
For the next meeting, I'll have that defined and what specific things we have to do.
Yeah, that would be
to
great.
Prepare the initial application. And
Yeah.
I have to get outside my comfort zone to find out what that is. Because I may have to, because just reading this does not help. You have to talk to somebody that really needs to know what's required.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding, Phil, you're going to continue to look at this and sort of summarize places where we need assistance. And if it's above our level of expertise at this level, then I think we ask for help. I will be talking with Ron myself about some drawings that he sent me. So I'll ask him what his capacity is to look at this. But I think it'd be nice if we could pass on your summary to him once you've got it complete, Phil.
Right. There are some contact information here, the people you can call and people you can, if you have some questions on what steps you need to do and what documents you have to provide for this initial assessment or application.
Or the State Historical Society. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they're there for. I'd definitely be in contact with them if you choose to move forward with that, because they will they'll make contact with you, and then they will answer specific questions on how they want their forms structured.
This document, which is online, you can go to it and click on some links that automatically take you to the next, areas that you need more information.
I think what I'm feeling is that if you can do a very simple summary report of what we have and what we need.
Okay.
I think the next step is to present that to the town manager, because she may have resources to plug in 30% of that. And then maybe Ron can help us find those other resources. But the summary of what we have and what we need, I think would be very helpful to go to them with.
Okay.
And really, anytime this group is grant writing, we should always check in with town staff. This group, everyone in this group should know what's going on with the grant application, which means we talk about it here, and then it goes to town staff, because we've been approved to look into these and to start them, but we can't contact the Historical Society. We can't go too far without checking in, I think, with town staff. Because they're actually the one that will sign off on the application.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to, I have a couple of reports. I have been in touch with, you're not gonna like this, Nancy. I've been in touch with my contact at Pocket Pals, who is supposed to be doing the town map. And when I sent them the little diagram that we did at the last meeting about how big that map should be, she, as an owner of that company, said, "You are in direct competition with our maps number 9." And so she and I had a very frank discussion about how we wanted to use this map and how she had agreed to do it. And she's sort of gone back to the drawing board to see what she's comfortable doing, as far as there were some crazy ideas discussed: renting a map, paying towards their production of their number 9 map. And then some discussion on my part, as you know, we're not competing with your map because there's no one buying your map in Green Mountain Falls. All of this a little bit over my head, because I'm not Jay, who knows everything about trail maps. So she actually phoned at the beginning of this meeting, because we were going to have a follow-up call, but I wanted to just report to the group that we're having a little trouble, a little rub there, and I will continue to work on it. And I may have to call some of you individually to talk through some parts of it that is not my level of expertise. So that's happening on the map. Any questions about that? Comments?
Don or Jesse, what is Pocket Pals map number 9? Is that a commercial trail map?
It is.
And it lists all the trails that are in Green Mountain Falls, including Terrell, Pittman.
It does not include what she called were minor trails, Terrell and Pittman, and even, but it did include Mount Dewey. It does include Catamount. It basically includes any trails that lead to a bigger trail outside the town system.
Yeah, so it's connections and portals to Ring the Peak, for example.
Exactly.
Okay, if I wanted to look this up to assess or make a decision about buying a copy, how do I go to that? Pocket Pals, do they have a website?
I'm looking. Pocket Pals trail maps. So they do have a website. You can buy their maps at REI. Just one of the places that's listed. So you can Google Pocket Pals trail maps and see what all they've got. And they
Okay.
are selling, for instance, the one I'm looking at is Pikes Peak. It's got 4 trailheads, 7 routes. And it's an $8 map.
Okay, I'll go look those up. If you, I'll just make sure I'm familiar with that, and I'm available if you want me to pass along any advice or possibilities.
Yeah, and again, this is the company that's produced the maps for historic, for Pittman, Mount Dewey, and we've never run into this problem. I think it's because we expanded that map to so where I landed with her is if we focus on what's within the town limits of Green Mountain Falls, would you consider that? And she said, I don't know, I'm gonna call you back. So I'll follow back up with her. And then I'll ask you guys questions or let you know what she's thinking. I did let her know that we had a deadline of having these ready to hand out Memorial Day, but would like them sooner.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what her solution is as far as narrowing that area, making the box smaller. And then having just some, okay, this, this leads to wherever, or where it doesn't compete with whatever their map number 9 is.
Yeah, and possibly we use, if she will let us, and I did ask her this question, the possibility of buying some of their number 9 maps and posting them on our trailheads as a resource.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that could work.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the other option would be going back to the trailhead map that the old trustees allowed us to use, and having more detailed maps of the trails themselves.
The
We didn't-
old map only showed where the trailheads are.
Right.
It didn't show the trails.
Right, but having separate trail maps, detail maps of the trail leading up. For example, the trails of the Wallace Reserve expand in some detail, because if you just use that large scale map, the trail the trails are barely visible. So that's another possibility there. But I'll let you make that call. I'll just make sure that I'm familiar with the character of their maps and how they overlap.
Okay, the other, and I'm going to do it briefly because I've got Zoom on my cell phone, which is down to 4%. So I did receive a site map with some renderings from Ron Gans on the Stilling Basin Park project. And I've just made some notes back to him. So I wanted to let you guys just know that that is going back and forth, and I'll have those to present probably at the next meeting for our next set of discussions.
And one more thing before you go down to 1%. Phil he's going to email me more about the playground ground covering. He did a little bit more detailed on it, and I'll send it to you.
Perfect. You know, guys, I'm going to try to request probably outside of PRT, I'm gonna try to request some of this parks money from or this project from Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation in conjunction with their request to do the awning or the shade over the fitness court. So I think it's just an opportunity for, since we're in a discussion, we can point out another item or two that we need.
Sounds like a good plan.
Does anyone else have a report?
I gave you some cost options there too, on different thicknesses of mulch for each of the playground areas. It's pretty expensive.
It
It's a
is,
more detailed, yes,
but we always ask for the 5-star.
yes.
Work our way down, and you gave me everything I needed to do that, Phil. So that was perfect. Any other reports?
That's it. It's supper
All right.
time.
May I adjourn at 6:03 PM?
Just, it's supper time for your phone as well.
It is. Everything here is low E except for me. The dogs have now stopped barking. They're just drooping.
Well, enjoy your vacation.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.